Hi, I'm Chief Sean Barnes. I'm here with Tyler Griggs, who's off camera, and Julie Laundrie to talk about public records. One of the things I think is so important about public records and the way we do things here at the Madison Police Department is that transparency helps us to develop trust in our community. So what are public records law? The purpose of the Wisconsin Public Records Law is to shed light on the workings of government and the official acts of public officers and employees. It is the goal to provide access to records that assist the public in becoming a more informed electorate. The Public Records Law, therefore, serves a basic tenet of our democratic system by providing opportunity for public oversight of government. So, Julie, what is public records?
Well, pretty much anything that we do here is a public record. So any communication that's sent, any written, even a release of records when you talk to someone is a release of records. Why that matters more in the police department is we do have some records that are confidential under state law here. Juvenile records, records about people's health care. And anything that we touch, anything that we write, anything that we create, anything that we maintain. So obviously that's a lot of records. We go on a lot of calls, so we generate a lot of records here. Mainly we keep police records, so records of police calls in our records management system, which is kind of a behemoth program that we keep everything in.
Wow.
What are some of the more common records that the public requests or the media requests?
Almost always police reports.
Police reports?
We don't ask the purpose. The law says we can't ask the purpose, but mostly people need records to go on with their lives, right? They're working through custody of their children. They're trying to get victims compensation. They're, trying to get a temporary restraining order. They had their bicycle stolen. They had their vehicle stolen. They had their home broken into. So, they're trying to move on with their life. That's what most people are doing. We also have some big customers. I don't know if big customers is the right way to, but obviously Dane County Human Services, they do child protection.
Yes.
They're a big customer for us. The Housing Authority, CDA, requests a lot of records for us. Family court counseling, when people can't have an agreement about the custody of their children, the courts intervene and they go to family court counseling. Those are some of our biggest customers. We also share send a lot of records to Dane County Victim Witness Protection. So, they provide services by using those records to reach out to victims of a crime or witnesses in a crime to make sure that they get the connection points that they need to be okay.
Yeah. Is there a time sensitivity to getting someone records that they may request?
Yes. There is a time sensitivity because often people have court. The last year has been obviously slow, but if people want to pursue a temporary restraining order and they need to have the records to go to court, it often is a quick turnaround for a temporary and a permanent. I always do tell people if they're requesting a restraining order, they need to keep in mind any piece of paper they bring into court automatically goes to the other side. So I give that warning to victims because obviously if you're pursuing a restraining order, there's a reason, and you wouldn't necessarily want every record that you bring into court to go to the person that you are pursuing that restraining order against. So we always give that warning. So people, if they want to, remove if you're requesting your own records, you get more than everybody else.
Right.
You get your address. You get your phone number, you get your medical information, you get your street address. So if you go into court, I encourage people to remove that themselves, any information they don't want.
Yeah, and along with that, how do you decide what to remove from some of these public records?
Well, there are some things that are set in statute. As I mentioned, under 48, which is the Children's Code, anything that's a record of a child in need of protective services that's a law enforcement record is confidential under statute. There are some exceptions, and there has been an Attorney General interpretation of that where we do find a path to give some of those records out, but we remove information that's child sensitive. Also, 938.396 is juvenile arrest, and those are also confidential records. Chapter 51 is confidential records of individuals that are have mental health, detox, or drug and alcohol statute. Those are also closed by statute. And then we have the biggie, the Victims' Constitutional Amendment, which we've had for a long time here in Wisconsin. It was just revised with Marcy's Law last year, but victims have not only a statute that protects their privacy, but also a constitutional amendment. So those are the things that we think about when we first look at a report. And then we also use the balancing test, which is a statutory action where you look at the public harm in releasing a record versus the public good. The individual doesn't matter in that balancing test. It's the public. So you have to think about it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's definitely important, and that certainly helps us with trust and transparency, because the balancing test puts the community first, and I think that's what we should definitely do. So I'm curious, how many public records requests would you say an agency like the Madison Police Department normally gets, maybe over a year, over a month?
Well, last year we had 23,907 public records requests.
Wow.
The year before it was 28,595.
Wow. And so how many people on your staff have to manage that?
I manage a unit of 9. We're one clerk down right now, but so that's, if to give it a perspective of weeks, it's last year it was like 500 a week came in and 500 a week went out. Mm-hmm. We touch every record 3 times. We receive the request, we log it, we locate it, we prepare it, we review it and redact it as necessary, and then we release it.
Right.
So everything's touched 3 times.
How does that compare to any other agency that you may know of?
I had heard that, approximately 2 years ago, Milwaukee was at about 7,000. I know that Green Bay Police Department's, I think, is at about 1,400. So when I last asked.
So almost double the requests for agencies that are almost double our size. Well, maybe not Green Bay, but
yeah. I mean, we have a lot of requests. It also could be how we count. So when you request video and reports, that's 2 requests because it's 2 separate process.
Yeah.
But you could request a 3-page report and we count it once. And you could request a homicide that's 1,200 pages and we count it once.
Okay.
So it kind of all balances out in the wash, I think.
Gotcha. Tyler?
Yeah, and as I understand, this used to be a commissioned officer's job, I think a lieutenant for that matter, right?
Yes.
And you're one of the first civilians to have this job. So what was the most surprising thing that you learned when you began?
Well, it was a big change for me, obviously. I've always worked in public service, but coming to a police department is different. There's a rule for everything, and that made me feel really comfortable. I'm not going to lie, I'm a rule follower, so I like to have a rule for everything.
It's good to have rule followers working at the police department, by the way. Just so you know.
I also was really pleasantly surprised with how many women in leadership in the organization. I mean, I was really profoundly proud of the We Are the 28, which was a big PR campaign that was done last year, how 28% of our commissioned personnel are women. I think that it's higher than that for civilians.
Oh, yeah.
But again, women in leadership, I really was floored by... it's really inspirational to come into an organization in a leadership capacity. This is a civilian lieutenant position, and my boss is a woman, civilian captain Sue Fichtel. She's great, super supportive, runs a really challenging unit. Because we're short staffed often and we have high volume. Chief Valenta, Captain Donahue, Lieutenant Riley, all these people that I really look up to, and it's really great to have a lot of people that look like you do make a difference. That's right?
Yeah. And so, we're trying to do better, as always. Yeah. Continuous improvement is one of our core values. So we've signed the pledge 30 for 30, where we're trying to have we will have 30% of our workforce females by the year 2030. Right now we're at 28%, and I think we'll be the first department in the country to successfully do that and to maintain that throughout the year 2030.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any parting words of advice for anyone who's sitting at home or in the police department and they're thinking, I think I want to submit a public records request. What piece of advice would you have for someone that's doing that?
Ask for what you want. I think that's always, our most challenging requests are when people don't want a police report. They want everything, right? And, the law is clear. You need to have a goal. You need to have something that you're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. The record needs to exist. So, knowing what you really want. If you're looking for something in particular, just ask for it. Because I'm going to ask that question anyway. I mean, I reach out to requesters all the time and have a conversation, and expect that we're going to be delayed, but trust that we're going to do the best that we can for you.
And what's the best way that somebody can obtain a police report?
You can go online. We have a fillable form on our website under records. You can call 24 hours a day, 608-266-4075, or you can send an email to pdrecords@cityofmadison.com.
Awesome.
All right.
Sounds like a great way to finish.
Well, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Chief. And thanks to those of you who are watching today's episode. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.